What's up, guys? Today I'm going to be going through reconstructions of my unofficial FMC PB single and mean of 3. So the single, which is the first solve I'm going to show, is a 19, and the mean of 3 ended up being a 21.33, which is my tied PB mean of 3 and my fourth sub 22 mean of 3 at home. So with that, we will get started. This is the first scramble. I will have it on the screen. And the edge layout is 8 bad, 8 bad, and 10 bad, which is pretty bad. And there were no 4-move EOs on the scramble with or without Nis. So I basically just ended up checking a ton of 5-move EOs. And the one that I ended up using was on orange front. So we have 8 bad. And my 4 good edges are here in DF, 1 in BL, and then these 2 in the top here. So my first 2 moves were D and U to put 3 of them on the M slice, or S slice relative to the EO axis, and then the other one is, it's around here somewhere. Oh yeah, it's still here in BL. And then from here I did L prime to give 4 bad, and then B prime R to give EO and 5 moves, and then from here I had 4C, 4E on 2 axes, so 4 corners and 4 edges on this axis, and the same for this one. So from here I switched, and here I saw that I had a 4-move case on this particular orientation. And there's 4 different ways to do this case in 4 moves. The one that I ended up going with was F, U2, L2, and then B prime. And then from here I got really lucky. It's just 1 more move to half turn reduction, which is the next thing that I do. So it's just a D prime. And then to solve the cube from here, I did B2 to kind of set all of these pairs up, L2, F2, R2, and then I essentially cancelled into this 2E, 2E case. So it's like D2, and then undo that, and not B2, D2, it would be F2, D2, B2, U2, B2, and that solves the cube in 19 moves, which is my PB single. For the second scramble, I got a 23-move solution. It was optimal from the domino that I chose. And this was also kind of an annoying scramble. So the edge layout wasn't so bad. It was 8 bad on FB and then 4 bad on the other 2 axes. But there are only 3 ways to do EO in 4 moves with and without Nis, which is pretty unlucky, I would say. So the EO I ended up going with was with the 8 bad. So I saw that my 4 good edges were here, here, down here, and the other one is somewhere. Where is it? This is hard to do through a camera. Okay, yeah, there it is. It's in the back here. So there's 2 good here. And I basically put all 4 of the good edges on the S slice by doing R prime, F2, D prime. And then I can just do FB to get EO in 5 moves. Now there was no DR trigger from this EO, or at least not like a conventional DR trigger that you would consider nissing for. But on this axis I had 3 corners and 6 edges remaining. And this is a case that can be done efficiently sometimes, but it's pretty rare that the pieces line up super well. I tried a few different ideas based on this EO, like replacing the D prime before with D. I did find a 10-move DR with that, but it had kind of bad corners. I couldn't really find a good finish off of it. So what I did instead from this EO was I did a D2 to kind of shift these 2 pairs around while putting this edge where I want it for the trigger. And then I can just do L prime to set things up, and then D prime. And then we have these 2 blocks here, which we can just finish with L, R2, and then U, like so. And then we have a domino. And then from here I switched from inverse, because this started on the inverse scramble, to the normal scramble. And the HDR I ended up going with was pretty inefficient. You can find the same solution by doing like the first few moves and then switching back, but that's not how I found the solution. So from here, what I did was R prime, which gives me 4 corners and 2 edges for HTR, and I did U2, R, D2, and then R2. Well, you could see it as like an R prime, and then you have 2 edges left, and then I cancel into solving them with another R prime, so R2. And then there's 4 different ways to finish HTR from this position in 4 moves. The one I ended up going with was D2, F2, U2, and then L prime. And then from here I can just solve the left and right sides, because that's the these are the layers I am trying to solve, because I just plan on rewriting the solution later to solve the M slice. And then from here I can just do D2, F2, L2, and then U2, but the U2 cancels from before, so it's really only 3 more moves. And that gave me 23 moves to just the domino slice. And then I went back, I rewrote the solution. I had to end up rewriting all the way from the first move to the last move, but I was able to end up solving the remaining slice in 0 moves, so that gave me a 23. Finally, for the third scramble of this Mina 3, I got a 22, which was also optimal for the domino that I found. So all 3 solves optimal from the domino, which is really nice. Not something I always get, so it feels good when it happens. And this one I had to NIS quite a bit more, so you'll see I've recruited a few extra cubes for this demonstration, reconstruction, whatever. Now this scramble, on the surface it doesn't seem super amazing. It's 6 bad on FB, 6 bad on RL, and then 8 bad on UD. However, there were quite a lot of 4-move EOs, much more than the previous 2 scrambles, combined in fact. I believe there were 11 total 4-move EOs, including some ones involving NIS, one of which I didn't actually find, but you can do 2 moves on normal, switch, and then 2 more moves, but I don't really always check that, because it's a bit time consuming and there's some kind of drawbacks to doing that sort of EO when it comes to time management and checking other stuff. But anyway, I didn't need that EO because the one I found was perfectly good. So the EO I did was on normal with the 6 bad on FB. So the 6 bad edges, there's 1 here, 2 in the S slice here, and then there's 3 on the back. And you can do a... Wait, sorry, no. The three bad are on the F face, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then there's 1 here in the back. Now, your normal inclination would probably be to do an F prime, and then you have 4 bad edges, and then it's a 5-move EO from there. However, this specific case can be done in 4 moves if you turn the 6 bad edges into 8 bad edges. And this is just kind of a case I've memorized because it's one of the weirder EOs. And the EO solution for this was B to give 8 bad, and then my good edges are here, here, and then here and here, and then we can again do that idea from before where we put them all in the S slice and then do an FB at the end. So it was like L, F, B. And this specific EO has a bunch of variations in the sense that if you replace the L with an L prime, you will preserve HTR. Like on a solved cube, if you do both EOs, one after the other with one being inverted, you will still have HTR. So this seemed like a pretty promising EO to use if I could find something on the other side of the scramble. I also had a few other HTR equivalent EOs, or I had 2 others, but they didn't pan out. Anyways, after I did this EO, I switched. Nothing really going on here. Like if you do a single turn, you don't get a DR trigger. But if you look on this axis, we again have 3 missing corners. This time we have 8 missing edges. So there's a few ways you could kind of think of how I derived the DR from this state. This isn't really a trigger, I know. But what I ended up doing was essentially 2 more moves to 4C, 4E. So what I did was R prime and then D to get 4C, 4E. But you could also think of it as me essentially like solving the corners and then inserting the edges later, which is how I personally saw it. So R prime D. And then from here, we can see that these edges are lined up. We have a 1x3 bar, and then we can just insert this edge with an F2, B2, and then we can finish the domino reduction with 3 more moves from there. And that gives me an 11-move DR with decently nice corners and actually some pretty promising blocks on the EO that I happen to use. So I tried finding some HDRs from here, didn't really work out. So I switched for a second time, and this is what the cube looks like just after the DR moves on inverse and the first move of the EO. So like I said before, you can do this EO a few different ways while preserving the HDR state. And the one I ended up going with was, instead of doing L, I did L prime, and then F prime instead of F, and then B, like so, and you'll see we have some pretty insane blocks at this point. And then from here, I just did an R turn, and that gives me DR minus 4C 4E, and it's in such a state where you can do something like RU2 F2R. It's not quite set up on this side of the scramble, so I ended up switching once again, and this is where we can see where the rest of the solution happens. So from this state, because we have like this kind of triangle thing here and this like little square of missing pieces here, there is 4 different ways to do HDR in 5 more moves while giving different outcomes for the left and right layers, which are the ones we are trying to solve, since we can just rewrite the equator slice, in this case the M slice, we can just rewrite that later. So what I ended up going with was I did B2 instead of F2, which is another starting move you can do. I then did R, which gives me these two 1x3s. And then here I also had the choice of doing either D2 or U2. I ended up doing D2, B2, and then L. And that gives me half turn reduction, and then to solve these left and right layers is just a simple B2, R2, U2, B2, U2. That gives me 22 moves to the M slice, and I was able to rewrite the solution without adding a single move. So that gave me a 22 to round out the 21.33 mean of 3. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. It's been a little while since I've uploaded. I'm not really planning on doing like active uploading at the moment. I did recently post a couple of domino reduction guides on the speed solving forums, which I will link below. Let me know if you want me to do like video versions of those guides and maybe go more in depth in like the DR steps. So like going in depth on EO, finding DR triggers, solving HDR, rewriting after you've got a skeleton, all that sort of stuff. Actually, you know what? I'll do this. Get this video to 300 likes and I'll make those videos. There we go. 300 might be a bit much. I don't know how active my audience is at the moment, but whatever. Let's get greedy with it. Alright, anyways, thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next video if this gets 300 likes, or if I feel compelled to post another video. Maybe I'll get a good mean this upcoming weekend at my comp, who knows. Alright, thanks for watching. See you in the next one.